Jim, Linda loves you. She loves you and the kids more than anything in the world, and she always will, and you know it. But she's going to spend tonight with Mark." I stood there with my mouth open, staring dumbly at my world ending. My mind was frantically spinning with images, or what was left of it. Linda at the top of the stairs in her beautiful blue dress. Linda at dinner. Linda at the club. Linda as we fed each other wings. Linda in asshole's arms. My anger was building. And then on what was supposed to be our special night, she left me for some asshole jock. I looked at Dee, growling those words. "Jim, she didn't dump you. She's coming home to you tomorrow, and you'll have many more special nights together. She didn't even have the guts to tell me to my face that she was leaving me. She just slipped out the back door." "Jim, listen to me. She didn't leave you." "Do I have the word retard written on my head, bitch?" I yelled at Dee, my voice choked with emotion. "If she didn't leave me, then where the hell is she?" I realized I was speaking loudly as people nearby began to stare at us. "That's why she left the way she did," Dee answered me condescendingly. "She was afraid you'd embarrass yourself." "No, she was afraid I'd embarrass her by reminding her of our wedding vows and kids, you stupid fucking bitch." Dave had joined us at the bar by this time and apparently got a little agitated by my verbal abuse of his wife. "Whoa, whoa, 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 Jim, you don't want to lose your head." "Woof," was the next sound that came out of Dave's mouth as I drove my right fist into Dave's stomach right below his heart. Dave staggered backward and dropped to one knee. "She left me for that goddamn soccer star and your dumbass wife helped her, you stupid bastard." Dee ran over to where Dave was kneeling, and a large, muscular young man came over to me and told me to leave. A second bouncer ran up to help Dave slowly get to his feet. While the rest of our party approached Dave and Dee, I stomped upstairs to our hotel room, the room where Linda and I had planned to have a carnal celebration just a few minutes ago. Now that the plan had burned to ashes in my heart, I grabbed my suitcase off the bed, leaving Linda's suitcase in place, and stopped at the counter to return the room key. The clerk behind the counter looked confused, scanning her computer and noting that we had 2 keys. "Yes, my wife will be staying, though not in our room. But she will need access to her things at some time tomorrow, I believe," I said sharply. "Okay," the young woman replied, looking at me warily. I pulled my cell phone out of my pocket and dialed Linda's number. I didn't expect her to answer, so I was no more upset than I had been 2 seconds earlier. When I put the phone back in my pocket, my former friends were already walking through the door from the restaurant. I noticed Dave and Dee walking at the tail end of the group. "Don't freak out, Jim," another friend, Jane, told me. "You both love each other. I'm sure it's just a one-time thing, and when she comes back to you, I'm sure you can both get over it. Think of the children, Jim." "Just like she's thinking about them right now, I'm sure," I barked back. "Why is it that she's the one running around playing whore to NFL Joe and I'm the bad guy? What if it was your spouse?" I stared intently into the faces of the other guys. None of the 4 could look me in the eye. "That's what I thought," I muttered, and walked to the parking lot. By the time I got home, my anger had been replaced by sadness and fatigue. I turned on the light in our bedroom, intending to lie down and fall asleep. But then I looked at our bed and realized I couldn't sleep on it anymore. Since the kids were staying with a babysitter for the night, I went down the hall to my son's room and lay there. Surprisingly, I slept the sleep of the dead, but unfortunately, when I woke up, the problem was still waiting for me, like death or the tax man. I ate a breakfast of Pop-Tarts and apple juice before packing up everything I wanted to take with me. I felt incredibly tired, moving around the house and looking at the things that up until that point had been part of my life. Our lives. I loved my children more than life, but there was no way I could stay married to their mother and look at myself in the mirror. I sat down in my favorite lazy boy chair in the family room for just a minute and must have dozed off. I was awakened by the sound of a car door slamming in our driveway. The asshole must have brought my soon-to-be ex-wife. "Jim, I'm home, honey," she said as she entered the house, as she always did after running errands. She walked through the kitchen and found me in the family room. She was wearing the same blue dress she'd left the restaurant in, but her hair was gathered in a ponytail and her makeup was missing. It looked like she had showered, but obviously hadn't gone back to the hotel to get the rest of her clothes. There was no sign of guilt or embarrassment on her face. I have to admit that surprised me, but then again, it had been one surprise after another over the past 2 days. "Same old me. Nothing's changed," she said a little too flippantly for my taste. "Go take a shower before you do anything else," I said as monotonously as possible. "I've already showered. You should know that I'm never coming to your house." "Then shower again," I shouted at her. "How am I supposed to know what you'll come home to me with? You've never run off and slept with another man before. As far as I know." She blushed to a crimson color and practically ran up the stairs to the master bathroom. I could barely hold on to my emotions. 20 minutes later, she returned to the family room wearing baggy sweatpants and looking extremely nervous. "I guess we need to talk, especially before we take the kids home. I know you probably have questions," she said quietly. "Well, that's putting it mildly," I snorted. "But are you sure you really want to know? I don't want to hurt you any more than I already have." "It's too late to worry about that now, don't you think?" I asked. "You sure as hell aren't going to be able to sleep with Mr. NFL Stud." Linda recoiled slightly at my comment. I rarely spoke to her in that tone of voice. "If I told you, it would only make it harder for us to get over it," she remarked. My face must have given me away. "Kids, surely you're not thinking of abandoning our family over one night of indiscretion?" she asked. "We love each other too much to do such a cruel thing. We can certainly get over it. I know I hurt you, but we love each other too much not to get past it." "Who is this we you keep talking about?" I asked. "We love each other enough? Until last night, I would have said yes, but now I know how you feel about it, and I realize it's not enough." "But I love you. I love you as much as I ever did," she exclaimed. "Last night was a night out of time, the only night, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving to you that I love you." "The only one? How about this morning? Twice?" At least she had the nobility to look embarrassed. "So was it as you expected?" I asked. She stuttered. She blushed. Then she finally spoke. Yes, it was, Jim. Mark obviously had a lot of experience with this, and he used that experience like a master. He understood what my body was telling him, and he played with me as if he was the master, and I was his tool." Good, I interrupted. At least she was clearly telling me the truth. She sat there with a smug expression on her face, and it pissed me off even more. "So, how did this whole thing start?" I inquired. "Well, you saw it. When he asked me to dance, I was so shocked that the stud every woman wanted was asking me out. I guess I got a little cocky and horny. He was a good dancer, but when a slow song came on and he put his arms around me and pulled me to him. When the second slow song came on, he told me his plans, that we were going away together, and I couldn't even speak. I just smiled and nodded, and it felt so right. And as I was walking back to the table, I cast a glance at Dee, and she did the rest for me. But it wasn't like I was abandoning you, Jim. I'm in love with you. I don't love him. It was just treason," I finished for her. "Don't do anything stupid, Jim. Think about the kids." "Like you even thought about them last night or this morning while you were having fun with Mr. Asshole from the NFL. Our vows, the kids, the comforts that can be forgotten about when the right stud comes along," I snapped at him. I glanced at the clock. It was time to pick up the kids from the babysitter. As I was on my way out the door, a brilliant idea hit me. "I know you have a story to tell," I said to Linda before I walked out the door, "but I don't want to hear it straight from your mouth. Write down everything from the time you left last night to the time you walked in the door this afternoon. I know Mr. NFL stud fucked you over. You don't have to go into detail, but I want to know how you felt and why you saw fit to back out of our vows. Maybe reading this won't be as scary as hearing it. You can give it to me when I drop by the kid's house tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" she asked in a squeaky voice. "But how will we get through it if we're not together?" "That's the least of my worries right now, Linda," I replied. "And by the way, get tested for STDs. I'm sure you're not the only one Mark has been sleeping with lately." She started to say something, but apparently changed her mind. "I love you, Jim," she shouted after me as I headed for the exit. "Yeah, sure," I mumbled back to her. On the way home, the kids buzzed my ears about their time at the babysitter's. I would definitely miss them since I would be working with them part-time. It wasn't fair that Linda was cheating on me and them, but it was likely that she, as the mother, would be the one who would be given primary custody. It wasn't always the mother who got it, but unless she was on drugs or something, most judges went that route. I took the kids' things into the house when we got back, and they started telling Linda about their night. I was about to leave, so I went up to each kid and told them I loved them and would see them tomorrow. They looked at me uncertainly, but then started telling Linda the details of their night again. The next day, after coming home from work, I stopped by the house, and the kids and I played games before dinner was served. When I saw that everything was ready at my house, I kissed the kids goodbye and left. I don't think I said more than 3 words to my wife, but I did remember to pick up my wife's written recollection of her time with Mr. NFL Stud. That night, I reread Linda's account of her interactions with the asshole 3 times while taking a half bottle of Jack Daniels. Apparently they had sex 3 times that night and, for extra convincing, 1 more time in the morning before she got home. She claimed she was practically blown away by his strength and size and felt almost powerless to resist him, even though he never made any demands on her. She said he was a complete gentleman and a nice guy, and under different circumstances, she thought we could have been friends. At this point, I got up, ran to the bathroom, and spewed the contents of my stomach onto the stool. I suppose it could have been too much, Jack. Or it could have been the part of the narrative where she says that even though he was a better, more complete lover than I was, with him, it was just sex, and with me, it was love and lovemaking. And of course, she wouldn't trade that for all the great sex in the world. She was sorry she had hurt me, she wrote. I noted that she didn't say she regretted the sex. Titled bitch, I thought to myself. Finally, on Friday night, Linda pulled on her panties and said we needed to talk. She was right, of course, but I was biding my time to see if she could come up with a better story than the one she'd had so far. We set up a meeting for Saturday afternoon. The kids would be at the babysitter's after lunch. I could have used my key to get into the house, but instead I rang the doorbell just to make a sign. Linda let me in and we headed to the kitchen table. She handed me a beer and poured herself a glass of wine. "Jim, you're overthinking this," Linda began. "Look at me. I'm still the same woman you married almost 10 years ago. I still love you, and I want to grow old with you. I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry for that, but we can't get through this if we're not together." "Apparently you just don't get it, Linda. I'm not overreacting. Your actions that night and the next day told me that you don't love me as much as you say you do. If you did, you couldn't have done what you did. You have no idea how much you hurt me, but even worse, you never apologized for leaving with Mr. NFL Stud. You apologized for hurting me, but never for the act itself. And that's because you never apologized for sleeping with him. You made plans with him that night and deliberately carried them out by putting your friend up to it. And now you think I should forget about your one-night stand adventure. Obviously, I never knew you as well as I thought I did. We love each other, Jim. We can get through this. I love you. Take me to bed and I'll prove it to you." She tugged on my arm and tried to lift me out of my seat. I pulled free and gave her my best contemptuous grin. "Really, Linda?" I asked. Even if I could forgive the damn disrespect you showed to me in front of our so-called friends, no less, you admitted to me that sex with Mark was the most exciting thing you've ever done in your life. How can I compete with that? Linda looked like she was studying the twill on the carpet. But we love each other, Jim, she whispered. You can't tell me you don't love me. I do love you, Linda. I think to a large extent I'll always love you. But after last week, that's not enough. I got up and walked out. As I walked out, I was met at the front door by a man with a manila envelope. Mrs. Jim Gunderson? He asked, as Linda staggered toward the front door following me. I didn't look back, but she must have nodded. You've been served. I have a good friend who is a family law attorney, and I was able to get the divorce papers done in just a few days. The settlement should have been simple because we live in a no-fault state. But I decided to ask for primary rights to the children as the injured party. The very fact that I asked for primary custody really pissed Linda off, and I knew she would fight back. But it gave me a chance to literally make myself known to the judge, and I told him exactly what the reason for filing for divorce was. To say he was shocked is an understatement. Did she really do it, Mr. Gunderson? He asked, eyes wide. I nodded silently. But you never said in your resume that Mrs. Gunderson was a bad mother, so I'm not inclined to deviate from our usual procedures. Your ex-wife will get primary custody. I wasn't surprised by this decision, nor was I surprised that Linda was angry with me for this attempt. I had no idea you would go this far to embarrass me, she said across the table. I'm not the one who left her spouse in front of 4 other couples to have sex with another man. That couldn't embarrass me, could it? Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. She blushed. It wasn't supposed to end this way, she finally whispered. You love me and I love you. We could have overcome everything if only you had been willing to forgive me for one mistake. But it wasn't just one mistake. It was a whole series of mistakes, I whispered back. I had unwittingly joined the ranks of part-time parents. For the next 2 years, Emma and Tommy visited me in my small apartment every weekend, and I took them away for a month in the summer. We spent a 2-week vacation at Disneyland in Florida. I did everything I could to make the time with the kids as rewarding as possible for both them and me. I barely acknowledged their mother when picking up or dropping off the kids. You can't just pick someone up and stop loving them, and seeing her brought back so many memories, it was heartbreaking. I expected this day to come someday, but not in 24 months. One weekend, we were driving in the car, and Emma surprised the hell out of me by asking why I didn't love her mother anymore and why we didn't live in the same house. I knew the kids weren't old enough to understand specifics, but they were more than old enough to know what was right and wrong, and I wasn't about to throw myself under the bus just to soften it up for my own kids. You know what we always talked about telling the truth and never, ever lying to anyone, right? I asked. Both kids nodded vigorously as I looked at them in the rearview mirror. So, Mommy told Daddy a really big lie, and now we can't live together anymore. I looked in the mirror again, and both kids nodded silently. I hoped there would be no more questions. There were no more questions from the kids, but not a week later, a very angry Linda was on the phone to me, tearing up my right ear. How could you tell the kids that I lied to you, and now we can't live together? How dare you accuse me of that? She yelled at me. It was your choice, you sanctimonious bastard! She had my undivided attention and my anger. I'm not lying for you. This is all because of you, I shouted into the phone. Our daughter asked what happened, and I told her the truth in the softest terms I could think of. I didn't think they'd understand the term slut, so you're lucky. Yeah, I never lied to you, she began to protest. What do you call breaking our wedding vows? I call it lying, bitch. I ended the conversation. And then the karma train pulled into the station. When I didn't have kids, my life consisted of nothing but working, eating, and sleeping. I didn't date. I didn't go out with guys after work. My right arm was well exercised. but that was the end of my social life. I wasn't looking for anything, and I certainly wasn't finding anything. My co-workers at work knew about my divorce, but didn't know the details. A few women expressed interest, but my heart didn't lie with it. I had never had any contact with the city newspaper other than a subscription when one day I got an unexpected phone call. Shelby Bradson, the paper's investigative reporter, was preparing a story about how most child custody disputes are won by wives. She had contacted several family law attorneys in town, and my attorney thought I would be a good source to talk to. Shelby noted that about a dozen divorced parents would be speaking on both sides. Although I didn't want to participate in the discussion, my attorney assured me that I would want to participate in the article. Telling my story to an outsider was incredibly awkward, especially the part where I had to admit that I had seen my ex-wife fall under Mark's spell, but had done nothing to stop it. I felt like a failure as a man, and maybe that was one of the reasons I was never able to forgive Linda. I admit that was partly true, but deep down I still realized that she knew what she was doing was wrong and I didn't need to step in to stop her. Shelby wasn't a huge soccer fan, but she definitely knew who Mark Lavaliere was. Shelby was a lonely 20-something, and when I first mentioned his name, she squirmed upright in her chair, and I'm sure her breathing quickened. She followed my story with interest, and I got the uneasy feeling that she was living vicariously through Linda as I told my story. However, just when I was getting all uncomfortable, it was as if someone flicked a switch and Shelby looked like a combination of Woodward and Bernstein and got her teeth into it. She just went off with him to have sex with him for a night, maybe more, and expected you to just accept it because he's an NFL star? Like he was a god in heaven and she was his prize? And he just expected her to do it? And she did? Holy shit, Mr. Gunderson. So Mr. Wonderful stole your wife with her full cooperation and you lost your children. Did the judge know about it? Asked Shelby. He was as shocked as you are, but said that since Linda wasn't a bad mother, he wouldn't go against the tide. So she got screwed by Mr. NFL stud, and I got screwed by the courts. The reporter still had a few more interviews before she put the article together, but a month later it was in the bottom half of the front page. Because of Mark Lavaliere's notoriety, my story was placed at the top of the article. The subheadline read, NFL star steals wife, court steals kids. The article erupted into a cacophony of outrage from all sides, including several city fathers, advertisers, the NFL itself, and the public. The seemingly universally beloved quarterback had previously been considered a pillar of the community, and the allegation that Lavaliere had left a restaurant with another man's wife was bound to cause problems for several city organizations and non-profit foundations. Within hours, 3 of Lavaliere's 4 contracts had been canceled due to morals, and the 4th was likely to be terminated soon. Finally, to make matters worse, officials from NFL headquarters demanded the players' presence to discuss another black eye for the league. "Oh my God, Jim, I can't believe you're making this public," screamed Linda into the phone receiver. "I'm going to look like the biggest whore on the planet. It'll be all over the internet in a few hours. My parents will see it, everyone I know will see it. I'll be flogged in public." "I can't believe you did this to me." "And I can't believe you did what you did to me. It hurts, doesn't it?" snapped I. 3 days later, the public outrage over Linda getting primary custody of the children had reached a climax, and the judge hearing our divorce case apparently couldn't take it anymore. He called my attorney and told me that after a review of the court's decision, prompted by new evidence in the case, he was reversing his decision and awarding me primary custody of the children. When my attorney reminded him that he had reviewed this evidence over 2 years ago, he hesitated and then told my attorney that he was not the only one making the decision and he should not look a gift horse in the mouth. My attorney wisely replied, "Thank you, Your Honor. Since I was now the primary custodian, child support was transferred to Linda, which gave me enough money to rent a decent apartment. It was much better for the children and me. We went on with our lives. From time to time, they expressed some regret that we were no longer together, but they understood the reason perfectly. It amazed me that they understood it, but the reasons still seemed to elude their mother. It had been over 2 years, and she still hadn't apologized. While I certainly wasn't expecting an apology, one would have been welcome. I hadn't followed Linda's life at all. The kids and I didn't talk about her at length, but occasionally mentioned her in passing. After all, she was their mother. I guess things weren't so rosy in her world after the newspaper article was published. The kids mentioned that Mom often seemed upset. Admittedly, I had a double opinion about that. Even 2 years later, I still loved this woman to some degree. For the first 2 years after the divorce, I went on 3 dates. Then, when I got custody and things settled down, I started going on regular dates when Linda had the kids. I wasn't looking to replace Linda, but it was nice to have female companionship again. A few years later, I found a woman I thought I could bond with. She was divorced and had 1 child, a son the same age as Tommy. Her husband had cheated on her several times until she decided she had had enough and divorced him. Sammy Joe and I were married in a small evening ceremony in early fall, attended by our children, her widowed mother, and her sister's family. We hope to grow old together someday, but first we have a lot of living to do. We recently bought a house big enough to accommodate the 5 of us. Tommy and Sammy Joe's son Danny took a liking to each other, like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Of course, Emma isn't always thrilled with the presence of 2 annoying younger brothers, but she handles it with big sister grace and really lets them know who's boss in the house. I learned from my kids that Linda now has a steady boyfriend. The only thing I know about him is that he's not Marc Lavaliere. Apparently, that asshole was traded to a team on the other side of the country 2 weeks after the article came out. This doesn't concern me, but I'm sure husbands all over Northern California might be a little worried.